As we're talking a little bit about cell phones this week on our lesson, we're going to be focused on text evidence and structure. Okay, so a few things I want to go over before we move into our lessons and our stories, our articles for the cell phones. You should have already answered your response for your reflection and about cell phones and filled in your STEM sentence. Okay, but today we're going to look at the structure and how we look at text in articles and writings, and also how we find the evidence in it. Okay, we're basically starting out with the text structure. Text structure is the term for how an author organizes information. Authors use different text structures to achieve different purposes, and there might be several types of text structures in a piece of writing. In our text structures, there's different kinds. We have description or list, and that includes details to help you picture or get to know a person, a place, a thing, or an idea, such as, for instance, most important, in front, beside, and near. Those are your signal words and phrases. And what to look for, a list or set of characteristics, including specific details. Under cause and effect, we have explaining why something happened, the cause, and what happened as a result. That is the effect. Signal words you would look for is therefore, so, this led to, as a result, because, if, then. An event is described in addition to what happened as a result of that event. So problem solution, you would present a problem and explain how it is solved. Now, signal words here would be propose, conclude, a solution, the reason for the problem. What to look for? A problem is described followed by one or more solutions. Next we have compare and contrast. This presents the similarities and or differences between two items, such as a pair of events, time periods, ideas, or places. Signal words we look for here are phrases like, unlike, but, in contrast, on the other hand, however, both, also, to, while, as opposed to, yet, rather, same. What to look for here are likenesses and differences are presented and or discussed. Finally, we have the sequence of events. This is your plot in writing and also reading. It describes events in the order in which they happened, also called chronological order. I also call it your lifeline, the story of your life, starting from the day you were born until present day, and all the events that have happened in between in order of event. Signal words here would be first, second, third, before, on, date, not long after that, next, at the same time, finally, then. What to look for here is a sequence of events or steps in a process is recounted. When we use the text evidence, we look for quoting and paraphrasing. Paraphrasing you should be very familiar with, as we've just finished that up in one of our recent lessons, to paraphrase something. So just as a reminder, when you write about something you have read, you need to use supporting evidence or text evidence to back up whatever point you are making. Most of your evidence will be details from the text you are writing about, which you can quote or paraphrase. Direct quotation is an exact copy of the words the author or speaker uses. Surround a direct quotation with quotation marks. Someone is speaking, it's dialogue. All right, I'm reminding that we never copy someone else's work. We never plagiarize. And we always give credit by either quoting what was told or spoken, or we can paraphrase it. We may take what is said, like we did recently in practice. To paraphrase is to put something written or spoken by someone else into your own words. A paraphrase is not surrounded by quotation marks. You are just restating what the author said and changing the words out. Reminder, with quotations and paraphrases, always tell your readers where your information comes from. An example of paraphrasing a direct quote would be, ever wonder what it takes to be a competitive eater? Just ask Joey Chestnut, 8-time winner of Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest. Joey, who once ate 69 hot dogs in 10 minutes, told Eat It magazine that being a competitive eater is all about finding your rhythm and getting your hands, mouth, throat, and stomach all working together. Having been a competitive eater for almost 10 years now, Joey knows what works. Jump up and down a little bit, Joey advises. It helps the food settle to the bottom of your stomach. Oh, and don't forget the Pepto-Bismol. So we have a paraphrase in the gray highlighted areas. Told Eat It magazine that being a competitive eater is all about finding your rhythm and getting your hands, mouth, throat, and stomach all working together. Notice there are no quotes. He just basically rewrote this in his own words or changing the words around. He paraphrased. In the direct quote, you see it is in quotes, and it is actually what he is saying, Joey advises. So note that the direct quote is very important when someone is speaking, definitely. Writing thoughtful reading responses using text evidence. When responding to text, it is important to cite text evidence to support your thinking. So here are some ways to cite text evidence when responding to text. The author said, end quote, and what they said. Or you might say, the author stated that, paraphrasing format, according to the text, and your words, from the reading I know that, on page, I noticed, based on what I read, based on the text, I know that, I know blank because blank. In paragraph blank, it said blank. Most of you will recognize these as our STEM sentences, something that we have been providing all year, Ms. Foster and I. And so you will notice that, like I said, these are like STEM sentences you would be seeing in your writings and reflections. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is writing thoughtful reading responses, again using text evidence. Further examples. Here are some tips for using text evidence. 1, you need to quote or paraphrase. When using a direct quote, copy down the exact words from a sentence, surround a direct quotation with quotation marks. To paraphrase it is to put something written or spoken by someone else into your own words. You don't change the meaning of what the other person wrote or said, just the wording. A paraphrase is not surrounded by quotation marks. The second tip, make it clear where your evidence comes from. Identify who wrote or said what you are quoting or paraphrasing. This is called citing your source. Include a page number. Words to help you, following things like, according to the author, or the author claims, suggests, states, writes, reports, describes, implies, explains, argues, declares, observes, notes, reveals, and remarks. These are all words to help you guide you in stating your evidence. And 3, explain why your text evidence is relevant. Okay, why is it important? What does it mean? Include a sentence that makes it clear how the text evidence supports your idea. Reread the information you quoted or paraphrased and ask yourself, so what? Now what? Some of you have already heard that from us. That's a popular thing that we always try to ask you guys to say, so what? Now what? Moving into the next, how are we going to answer that? So words here to help you, where the author says this because, this proves that, this exemplifies how, this confirms, this demonstrates, this describes, this explains, this illustrates, implies, or suggests. Okay, as we have reviewed our text evidence and strategies, so now we need to look at vocabulary. Some of the vocabulary coming up in your next 2 readings that you're going to be following up on after this is, there's 6 words that we're going to review today. So first one we need to look at is compulsion. This is a noun. The verb compel means to force to do something. Hunger compels you to eat. Illness compels you to stay in bed. A compulsion is something you feel compelled to do, a strong desire or constant urge to do something, even if it is unreasonable or you want to stop doing it. You might feel a compulsion to constantly check your hair in the mirror, to share a secret, or to order an ice cream sundae for dessert even though you're completely stuffed from dinner. As you see in the picture, this lady has a compulsion to go shopping. Some of you may be able to relate to this as well. And you're shopaholics, we might call you. Or you might be like myself. If you're one of my students and you know how I am, I'm OCD, which means I'm constantly reorganizing my classroom, putting things back in place. So I'm very organized, overly organized, you might say. All right, so the second word is deprivation, something that we have deprived of. As you see in this picture, what is sleep? Okay, the verb deprive means to take something away from or to keep from having. If your smartphone breaks, you may be deprived of contact with your friends for a while. Oh my gosh, it's a horrible thing, isn't it? So deprivation is the state of being deprived, of not having something that is needed. If you're suffering from sleep deprivation, you haven't slept in a long time, or you're not getting enough sleep each night. So stay off those cell phones. That is the part of our story and how we're focused on the cell phone right now, and if it's really helping or benefiting us. So some of you are staying up on it too much all night with TikTok and all these other things on there that you surf and go through. Get sleep. Don't deprive yourself. Okay, and look like this gentleman here in the picture from SpongeBob SquarePants. All right, so Patrick is not doing well. Number 3, third word we're going to look at is called rummage. It's a verb. To rummage is to search for something you want in a disorderly or hurried way. You're moving things around, turning things over, or quickly looking through the contents of a place or container. You might have to rummage through a big pile of stuff at the bottom of your closet to find your other sneaker. Mickey is doing this well himself in that drawer. Sometimes we get panicked about losing something and we start like throwing things out trying to find something in a panic. All right, number 4 is to wreak havoc. It's an expression, okay? And you'll notice in the picture you've got the monsters in the background wreaking havoc on the city and destroying it. Kind of the same idea as Godzilla. If y'all know the Godzilla I grew up with, and even today he's still around. So to wreak havoc is to cause something harmful or damaging. Havoc is destruction, confusion, or disorder. The expression wreak havoc is used when someone or something causes a lot of trouble or damage. A blizzard might wreak havoc on the highways by making the roads dangerously icy and snowy. A rabbit might wreak havoc in your vegetable garden by eating everything you're growing. Number 5 is vulnerable. This is an adjective. Something that is vulnerable can be easily harmed either physically or emotionally. You might feel vulnerable, in a new place. Baby birds are vulnerable without the protection of their mother. In this picture, we have WhatsApp, one of our many apps out there that we can utilize and use, where you are vulnerable to the people and sources outside in the world because there are hackers out there who can try to get your information. So when you're out on these apps and you're using your cell phone and going out on TikTok and all these different places, you are making yourself vulnerable to other people. That means you are more accessible to those people and they can possibly penetrate into that system or access that system and get your information. So you are vulnerable in that situation. The last word, number 6, we have Steve Jobs versus our famous PC versus Mac battle. Okay, so innovator, noun. The verb innovate means to create new ideas or ways of doing things. An innovator is a person who innovates. He or she does things differently than they've done before. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple Incorporated, was an innovator in his field. Okay, so there are the 6 words or vocabulary for the story. Please continue on to the next part of your assignment where you'll be reading both articles. There are 2 articles within that same link on the Scholastic site. Please read those and then take the following quiz. Thank you for listening and have a blessed day, guys. I love you all, and we'll talk soon.